Algebra 1, Chapter 3, and before we look at evaluating some exponential expressions, I want to take a look at a very important, or make a very important note about one of the very common errors that is made when working with exponents. So I want to let you know what that is, make you aware of it, so you can try to avoid this as you're doing your work with exponents. The exponent only applies to the symbol that it's next to, and I want you to take very careful note of the word symbol. Okay, again, symbol are just things that we use to represent ideas. It's very important that when we're working with exponents that we look at, well, what is the actual base of the exponent? What is the factor that I'm going to use and multiply by itself? Because if I'm using the wrong factor and multiplying something by itself over and over again, but it's not the base, it's going to lead to an error. So let me show you what I mean and where the error usually occurs. If I have this expression here, 3x to the fourth, you'll notice that the 4 is right next to the letter x. Okay, so it's next to the x. The 4 is not next to the 3. So the exponent only applies to the symbol x as to what it's next to. So this would mean, if I expanded this, would be 3 is a factor once, and then x times x times x times x. X is the base, and it's used 4 times. All right? Because the exponent is next to the letter x. It is not next to the letter 3. So be very careful that you don't do that. Now, one note here, there's something that's always true that's not really written. Whenever you have a number or even a letter, if it's not written, it still has an exponent. In other words, I could write a 1 here as an exponent, and that means use 3 as a factor once. That's only used once here. So you want to be aware of that, just because, again, in the future, we're going to expect that you understand that even though that exponent there is not written, there is an exponent there. Now that's usually pretty easy. The mistake is made when you have an expression that looks something like this. And a lot of students will take this 3x to the fourth and write it like this, applying the 4 to only the x. However, what symbol is the exponent next to? It's not next to the x. There's something in between the x and the exponent. It's actually next to the parentheses. So it's this parentheses that is actually used 4 times. Okay? So this actually means the parentheses and everything that's in it times the parentheses and everything that's in it times the parentheses and everything that's in it times the parentheses and everything that's in it. And so we have 3x times 3x times 3x times 3x. Notice that is very different than just 3 times x times x times x times x. Okay, so it's very important that you take note of what symbol is the exponent next to, because that actually is the base. And it's very important when we're looking with parentheses and those without parentheses that we're careful to do that. And this is going to be something that comes in, again, a mistake that's made later on with the more complex ones when we start raising powers to powers and those types of things. So if we're not understanding that actually this exponent goes with the parentheses, so everything inside of here is actually used as a factor this many times. Okay, so take note of that. Make sure, just think about it, that the exponent is used to the symbol that it's next to, and that's going to be your base. So one of the types of problems that we want you to be able to do is to go from an expanded type of expression and change it into its exponential form, and take an exponential expression and change it into its expanded form. And so you'll have questions like that you'll need to be able to do. So when it says what is the meaning of this, it means expanded out. So what does this actually mean? Well, it means that we're going to use 2 as a factor twice. What does n to the fourth mean? It means we're going to use n as a factor 4 times. What does 3 to the fifth mean? It means we're going to use 3 as a factor 5 times. So that's going from the exponential notation to an expanded notation. But you want to be able to go the other way as well. take it from exponential, or excuse me, expanded notation, take it into exponential. So what does this mean when we multiply 6 by itself 4 times? Well, 6 is the base, and how many times are we multiplying 6 by itself? 4 times, so this would be 6 to the 4th. Here we have 4 used once, and then y used 4 times. Now, we could write 4 to the 1st, but that would not be the conventional form of our answer. The conventional form is when this is a 1, we don't write it. So the conventional form answer would be 4, and then y is used as a factor 4 times, or y to the 4th. And here you have 2, and then you have n 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So 2 is used once. Again, we don't write it. It's understood. N is used 7 times. So we want you to be able to do both. Go from an expanded to an exponential, and from an exponential to an expanded, and make sure that, especially when you're going from exponential to expanded, that you be careful that the exponent only applies to the symbol that it's next to. In the last video, we'll take a look then at evaluating some exponential expressions.